Well, let's go to Daniel chapter number 11, and I'm actually I hope, I pray, I'm going to do all 30, 45 verses. How do you do 45 verses in 30 minutes? Very quickly, like Sherman went through Georgia. The first 35 verses are very difficult. So I'm going to go through them very quickly and just make a few observations, because the first 35 verses are past tense. It has already happened. Verse 36 to the end of the chapter, verse 45, I think, is yet future. The events of chapter 11, verse 1 to 35 are events that take place from around 400 BC to about 130 to 150 BC. And the best way I can do that is just walk you through those verses. In some verses I won't say anything. In some verses I'll make a few applications. What it is, you've got the Syrian kingdom on the north and the Egyptian kingdom in the south, and you've got the Jews stuck in the middle. And the northern and the southern kingdom are in constant warfare. So that's the general setting. And so let's do the first 20, because verse 21 to 35 then is the war of the Maccabees, a priestly tribe, against Antiochus Epiphanes, a type of the Antichrist, which is then verse 36 to the end of the chapter. Now y'all fib to me and tell me you got all that. There is something very interesting in verse 1 to 20 about the warring nations that is applicable today. So, it is a real tragedy that we in our own country have come to a place where we are discounting our history and tearing down statues and wanting to update or change our constitutions. That is very destructive to the nation. Admittedly, every nation has some history that was wrong and that they need to apologize for. But destroying it and denying it is not the way. So, anyway, let me walk through this. Verse 1 of chapter 11. Now, remember 10, Daniel got the vision. And now here he was prepared for the vision. So here it is. Also as I in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I stood to confirm, to strengthen him. He was ministering to the king. And now will I show thee the truth, the angel said. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia. The Persian Empire here now at its close. The Persian Empire was the predominant empire in the Media-Persian Empire. There were going to be 3 more kings. By the way, right in this area, 3 kings, and the 4th, which is Antiochus Epiphanes, right in this later Persian Empire, is where the book of Ruth is. Right there in that little 3-word area. The fourth shall be far richer than they all, Antioch Epiphanes. And by his strength, through the riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Grecia. The Media-Persian Empire and the Grecian Empire were enemies. And everything that the Persian Empire did, they did to irritate and egg on the Grecian Empire. That's why eventually the Grecian Empire, when Alexander came to power, had enough and was able to muster their forces and whoop the Persian Empire. And a mighty king shall stand up that shall rule with great dominion and do according to his will. That's the Alexander. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken. At the peak of the kingdom, Alexander suddenly dies, and shall be divided toward the 4 winds. The 4 generals of the Grecian Empire was divided. And not to his posterity, because he didn't have any, nor according to the dominion which he ruled. Nobody was strong enough to take the whole kingdom. For his kingdom shall be plucked up, even for others besides those, divided among strangers. And the king of the south, Egypt, shall be strong, and one of his princes, and he shall be strong above him, and have dominion, as dominion shall be a great dominion. And in the end of years they shall join themselves together, that is, Egypt, for the king's daughter of the south. When it says king's daughters, that usually meant an agreement, a contract between kingdoms. Shall come to the king of the north, Egypt, now trying to make an agreement with Syria, to make an agreement, but ye shall not retain the power of the arm. There wasn't enough force to keep the agreement. Neither shall he stand, nor is the arm, but she shall be given up, the agreement shall fail, and they that brought her, and he that begat her, and he that strengthened her in these times. Now, there were some queens, if you study ancient history, that did rule, but the ultimate meaning is contracts between nations that failed. But out of a branch of her root shall one stand up in the stage, which shall come with an army and shall enter into the fortress of the king of the north. Egypt attacks Syria, and shall deal against them and shall prevail. Egypt wins the battle, and shall also carry captives into Egypt, their gods with their princes, with their precious vessels of silver and of gold. He shall continue more years than the king of the north. For a while the Egyptian kingdom will be stronger than the Syrian kingdom. So the king of the south, Egypt, shall come into his kingdom and shall return into his own land. But his sons shall be stirred up, and they shall assemble a multitude of great forces, and one shall certainly come and overflow and pass through. Then shall he return and be stirred up, even to his fortress. The southern kingdom, under a new king, prepares again to attack Syria. And the king of the south shall be moved with choler, that is, great fierce anger, and shall come forth and fight with him, the king of the north. And he set forth a great multitude, but the multitude shall be given into his hand. This time the king of Syria ends up being stronger than the king of Egypt. And when he hath taken away the multitude, his heart shall be lifted up, and he shall cast down 10,000s, but he shall not be strengthened by it. For the king of the north shall return, and be stronger than Egypt this time, and shall set forth a multitude greater than the former, and shall certainly come after certain years with a great army with much riches. And in those times, the Egyptian Syrian conflicts, plural, there shall many stand up against the king of the south, Egypt. Also the robbers of thy people shall exalt themselves to establish division, but they shall fail. Egypt's power has never really recovered since God drowned their army at the Red Sea. So the king of the north, Syria, shall come and cast up a mound and take the most fenced cities. Now then, the northern tribe takes the southern tribe. In the arms of the south, Egypt shall not withstand, neither his chosen people, neither shall be any strength to withstand. Now, from this northern-southern conflict, Egypt has never recovered to this day. But he that cometh against him shall do according to his own will. None shall stand before him, and he shall stand in the glorious land which by his hands shall be consumed. This would be the king that ruled at the time of not Ruth. Hang on. This is way too much fighting and conflict for one old brain to keep up with. Yeah. Hang on. Don't go away. Take a nap. Esther. I knew that name would come to me. Esther under, what was the name of the king? Artaxerxes. So where we are right here is in the time of Artaxerxes. So verse 16, but he that cometh against him shall do according to his will, and none shall stand before him, and he shall stand in the glorious land. That would be Israel. You remember what Mordecai tried to do to the Jews? Remember all that fits in right here. Which means he shall consume. He shall also set his face to enter with the strength of his whole kingdom, and upright ones with him. Thus shall he do, and he shall give the daughter of women, corrupting her, another contract, but she shall not stand on his side, neither before him. After this shall he return his face unto the isles, and shall take many, but a prince for his own behalf shall cause the reproach offered to him to cease. Without his own reproach he shall cause it to turn upon him. In other words, while these people fighting, even though they periodically make peace contracts, none of the peace contracts made among these nations shall stand. Now, let me stop right there at the end of verse number 18. Anybody know why right through today, no peace contract between the Arabian nations and the Jewish people, Arabian nations between each other, and Arabian nations against the Jews? Why has no peace contract to this very day ever stood and not failed? Anybody want to take a stab at that? Got to go way back in history to Abraham. Remember what happened? God said, you're going to have a son. He got impatient. 15 years went by. Sarah said, well, take my Egyptian maid and have a son. And he did. But it wasn't a son of promise. And that son, with his mother, got put out of the house. And that son grew up to be a great prince, out of whom also came many nations, but not the promised seed. There you have most of the nations around the Mediterranean Sea.